All right, in this video, we are going to talk a little bit more about the final project. So number one, kind of where you should sort of be at this point. So hopefully at the very least that you have it set up so that your application can kind of do something like this. So at least print out that 2D array in that 3x3 grid like here. You might still have be wondering about how to do the space in there. And so, in my opinion, there's lots of different ways to do it, but in my opinion, the best thing to do is just to kind of leave the 0 in the array. Okay, and then when you go to print it out, just print a space instead of printing the 0. So print out the 2D array like this, and then get input from the user. If you even if you don't have it validated, so like here, if I enter an int, it's fine, but the way I've got this, if I don't, then it's going to crash. So even if you don't have that part down where you do the validation and input, that's okay, for now. So the main thing is you should be able to have it display this grid with the 0 there or not, and then accept input from the user as ints. And you can see mine is not making the moves yet. So this is just sort of the basic outline of it. And it should keep doing that until the user enters a 0. And when the user enters a 0, then it stops like this. Okay, so that's kind of, if you haven't made it to that point yet, that's where you need to be. Okay. All right, and so if you have questions on how that gets done, then let me know. So I'm going to go ahead and close this project out, and then one of the next things then that will have to be done, that you'll have to do, right? The user is going to enter a number, okay, like this, a 6, all right, and you're going to have to decide whether that represents a legal move or not, okay? And like I said, to me, that's the most complicated part of this whole project, and it basically. What you're going to have to do, the first part of that, is to figure out where this number that the user entered is located in the array. It's a 2D array, right? So it's going to be at the intersection of some row and some column. So for instance, this 6, right, is at the intersection of row 1. Remember, the row and column numbers start at 0. So it's at the intersection of row 1 and column 1, all right? And then the user enters a 4. You're going to have to figure out that this 4 is at the intersection of row 0, column 0, and so on and so forth. All right, so what you'll need to do is to search through this 2D array and figure out what row the number is in, what row the column is in. All right, and so I'm going to show you how to do that with a 1D array, and then so hopefully that will give you the idea, and then you can extend it to a 2D array. So I am going to declare an array and just put some random numbers in there. And over here, I'm going to type the indices just so you can see as an example. So that's at index 1, index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, and then at index 4, okay? Okay, and instead of the user typing in a number, I'm just going to put I'm just going to declare a variable here to make this video nice and short. So just think about it. The user is going to be typing in some number, and that's the number that we want to find, okay, in the array. So instead of going through that part exactly, I'm just going to declare a variable to hold the value that we want to find in this array, okay? And so what I would do, right, is set up a for loop, all right? And that for loop is going to be pretty standard for loop. And you're going to have to basically do this for a 2D array, so you're going to have to use those 2 loops, right? 2 nested loops. And that's I showed you pretty much how to do that in the printing video. Okay. All right, and so now here, what I'm going to do is have an if statement inside the loop. All right, and I'm going to be checking the numbers in this array. And so the array is called numbers, and so this variable I, right, will print out or go through and put every possible index in this variable I. And then what I want to do is check, hey, is the number in the array at that position, which would be the name of the array plus this index variable in brackets, is that equal to this value of this variable right here? Is that the number that we're looking for? All right, and if it is, right, then do what it is that you want to do. System. I'm just going to print it out. All right, that's probably not what you are going to want to do. All right, so here I'm going to print it out, system.out.println I, okay, and then I'm going to break. Once I found it, right, then I'm not going to go and look any further. Now, if you had an array with repeated numbers in there, you might want to keep looking, for whatever reason. But in our application, the final project, we don't want to do that, right? All the numbers are different in the array. Okay, and so if I run this, this should print out 3, right? And that's the index where the 6 is located. All right, and so you can see it prints out a 3. If I want to find out where the 2 is, right, I print that out. And it prints out a 1, right, this index right here, okay? So now you probably will want to save this in a variable, or you might even want this code in its own method, and you might want it to return, right, that value. So I'll show you how to do that. I'll just create another variable, the index, and keep it at -1 to start off with. And then if I'm in the process of going through these numbers one by one, and I find the number that I'm looking for, right, then, in other words, this statement is true, then it will drop into this loop. And then what I'll do is just set that value of that variable, the index equals I. Okay. All right. And so then that is saved in a variable. I could print out that variable later. So if you don't put this piece of code, this loop here that finds the index for a given value, then if you don't put it in its own method, then this is probably how you would do it, right? You would save that variable and then find that. Okay, so this tells us, hey, the value of 2 is at index 1. All right, we have a 2D array, so this will be, say, a column number is what it would be in this. And you could also do that for the row as well. Okay, and so you'd have 2 numbers and 2 for loops when you do this. But the idea is pretty much exactly the same. Okay. All right, so that's the next thing that you would have to do is to go through and figure out when the user types in a number, figure out what row it's in the 2D array and what column it's in the 2D array.